Welcome to Kind Curiosity, where we explore those who have the audacity to be kind. My name is Felicia. In this week's episode, we'll dive deeper into kindness and advocacy. Before I recorded my conversation with Greg Maloney, owner of Promoting Abilities, I thought I understood disability advocacy. I understood awareness. I understood empathy. I understood be nice. But what Greg helped me see very clearly is that kindness without infrastructure is just intention. Promoting abilities isn't about charity, it's about capability. It's about employment, housing, autonomy, and most of all, respect. History is filled with people who are differently abled, who thrived because someone had the audacity to be kind instead of offering pity. So today, I want to name the helpers. And I want to connect their courage directly to what Greg is doing right now. The story of Helen Keller is widely known. The movie of her life, called The Miracle Worker, debuted in 1962. Her story of overcoming her disabilities, of being deaf and blind, inspired many. Anne Sullivan was the miracle worker in this story. When she arrived, Helen was isolated, frustrated, and labeled unreachable. Anne herself was visually impaired and had grown up in poverty. At the age of 5, she contracted the eye disease trachoma, which left her partially blind. Unfortunately for Anne, her partial blindness was not the only thing she had to overcome. She suffered abuse at the hands of her alcoholic father, who abandoned her and her 2 siblings after the death of their mother from tuberculosis. Anne endured 4 unsuccessful eye surgeries and other unspeakable tragedies in her young life. She was finally sent to the Perkins School for the Blind at the age of 20. After which, she became the lifelong partner and instructor of Helen Keller. Anne's past and experience with a disability allowed her to be kind to Helen in spite of Helen's violent outbursts. She refused to walk away when progress stalled. She did not stop with just teaching Helen a few words. Anne had the same attitude as Greg Maloney of Promoting Abilities. She wanted more for Helen than just getting by. She wanted Helen to live as independently as possible. Like Greg, she believed in the ability to move someone past the point of needing any type of assistance. Anne created access to language for Helen. Language, in turn, created access to thought. Thought created access to the world. Helen was not only thrilled, she was unstoppable. She recalled one moment when Anne was trying to teach her about water. Helen stated, "I stood still, my whole attention fixed upon the motions of her fingers. Suddenly, I felt a misty consciousness as of something forgotten, a thrill of returning thought, and somehow the mystery of language was revealed to me. I knew then that WATER meant that wonderful cool something that was flowing over my hand. The living word awakened my soul, gave it light, hope, set it free." End quote. After this revelation, Helen demanded that Anne teach her more words of objects in her everyday life. In 1893, Anne attended the William Wade House and Finishing School with Helen. From there, they attended Wright Humason School for the Deaf, so that Helen could learn from another instructor. Helen went on to attend Radcliffe College, which was part of Harvard University. She graduated Phi Beta Kappa with a Bachelor's of Arts degree from Radcliffe. She also became a world-famous speaker and authored 14 books, with the story of my life being the inspiration for the movie The Miracle Worker. Helen achieved what no one could have imagined because a teacher named Anne Sullivan had the audacity to be kind. Previously, Dr. Janine Wilson, who is a lifelong educator, spoke of education and the need for kindness. The true test of a teacher is to see their student excel far beyond what they imagined. Anne was a teacher who did not limit her students based on her own expectations and experiences. She gave Helen the tools needed and then provided the runway to launch her into the stars. One memorable quote from Anne Sullivan is, "The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart." Promoting abilities does exactly this kind of work, staying present long enough for people to access independence. Greg and his staff have patience because they understand that everyone deserves independence, and allowing them to see a life beyond reliance is always the goal. Kyle Maynard was born with a congenital amputation. His arms end at his elbows, his legs at his knees. As a child, he faced the question that haunts many who are differently abled. What can I actually do? His parents, Scott and Anita, answered with action. They raised him to be as independent as possible, driving him to believe that his disability was not a prison, but a different pathway. At age 11, Kyle wanted to wrestle. Think about what this means. Here is a kid who is differently abled in his arms and legs, wanting to do a sport that traditionally required a full set of both. In comes Cliff Ramos, also known as Coach Ramos. He saw Kyle not as a liability, but as an athlete with a unique body requiring unique strategies. Coach Ramos had the audacity to take on the challenge of teaching Cliff a sport that normally required arms and legs. Coach Ramos willingly devoted himself to helping me succeed, stated Kyle. As his coach, even developed special wrestling moves designed specifically for Kyle's body type. But the real test came when Kyle lost every single match during his first year and most of his second year. Here is where the audacity to believe proved its worth. Kyle's father convinced him to keep trying. After 35 consecutive losses, Kyle finally won a match. Coach Ramos did not give up on Kyle. He saw the determination and the dedication that Kyle exhibited. He believed in him and did not let the world tell him what Kyle was or was not capable of. Kyle finished his senior year with 35 victories and only 16 losses, even defeating state champions along the way. He went on to become a mixed martial arts fighter, a world record-setting weightlifter, and the first quadruple amputee to successfully climb Mount Kilimanjaro without prosthetics. Coach Ramos' simple act of refusing to let him quit transformed a child who did not have the appearance of being a success into a record breaker, all because someone had the audacity to be kind and the courage to say, "Try again." Coach Ramos was quoted as saying, "Kyle is one of the most amazing athletes that has ever lived." Coach Ramos was inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. He was named Regional Coach of the Year 22 times, named Georgia Coach of the Year 5 times, won the National High School Wrestling Coach of the Year, and has a scholarship named in his honor. On October 15th, 2020, he passed away from pancreatic cancer at the age of 67. He taught for 42 years, coaching over 1,000 wrestlers. He had one more practice with his current players and those he taught in previous years, always encouraging his students, both past and present, to keep fighting. What stands out the most about Coach Ramos is not his awards and his wins, but his treatment of his players, no matter their ability. Sinaway Anamanga was born with a rare condition called phocomelia. That meant she came into the world with no fully formed limbs and no knees. From day one, her body did not fit the picture most people have of what a normal body looks like. Now imagine the rooms she grew up in. The looks, the silence, the conversations that happened about her instead of with her. Her paternal family struggled to accept her. Some saw her as a tragedy at the fault of her mother. Some simply did not know what to do with a child whose body interrupted their idea of how things are supposed to be. But one person refused that story. One person had the audacity to be kind: her maternal grandmother. Where other people saw a problem, her grandmother saw a person. Not an object of pity, but a child. And here's where kind curiosity shows up in daily life. Her grandmother did not put her on a couch and tell her, "You just sit and we'll do everything for you." She did not protect her from every hard thing. She didn't lower the bar, she raised it. In that house, if the other children had chores, so did Sinaway. If the floor needed to be swept, she was expected to help. If the house needed to be cleaned, she had a role. If things didn't get done, there were consequences for Sinaway, just like with everyone else. From the outside, some people might have said, "How can you expect that from a child with no limb? Isn't that too harsh? Aren't you supposed to be gentle?" But her grandmother understood something most people miss. Pity keeps people stuck. Expectations help them grow. Discipline in her hands was not cruelty. It was a radical form of kindness and respect. Kind curiosity shows up saying, "I believe you're capable. I believe you can contribute. I believe you have a future that's bigger than your limitations." In her own words as an adult, Sinaway said, "My grandmother never saw my disability. She just saw a child like everyone else, a child with potential, a child who had all the capability to excel and do great things," unquote. That belief wasn't a one-time affirmation. It was baked into daily actions, into chores, into routines, into the structure of the home that Sinaway grew up in. Her grandmother didn't change the expectations to match the disability. She changed the support to match the expectations. That's kind curiosity. It's the decision to ask, "How can I help you do this?" instead of, "Should you even try?" As she grew, the outside world didn't magically become kind. Public attitudes about disability were still full of stigma. Physical spaces were not designed for her. People stared, they doubted, they whispered. But by then, something had already been planted in her. Sinaway had years of training in being treated as capable. She had a grandmother who expected her to show up, to participate, to figure things out. Her grandmother showed the audacity to challenge her granddaughter, because she knew the world would not be so kind. So when life said, "You can't," that voice from childhood said, "Actually, you can. We've been doing this for a long time." Over time, that foundation turned into a calling. Today, Sinaway is a life coach, motivational speaker, and founder of a mentorship platform called Empower Her Abilities. She works with women who are differently abled, helping them build confidence and see possibility in themselves. She talks about self-love, about navigating stigma, about rewriting the script that says your body is a limitation, not a life. And she is very clear about where that strength began. She says, "I could not be having this conversation if grandma didn't really invest time," end quote. Her grandmother had the audacity to treat her as a fully functioning human, with responsibilities, with expectations, with room to fail and try again. Kindness and advocacy often gets misunderstood. We confuse kindness with being polite, staying out of the way, or feeling sorry for someone. But the kind of kindness Greg lives out doesn't stop at nice. It makes room for hard work, hard days, and real growth. It sits in the tough moments and still pushes for independence. It says, "You deserve a life where you call the shots," and then sticks around long enough to help you get there. That is kindness with a backbone. That is curiosity that asks, "What might you be capable of if I refuse to underestimate you?" We think kindness means, "Let me carry you so you never struggle." That builds dependency and not independence. But Sinaway's story reminds us, sometimes the kindest thing you can do is stand beside someone while they struggle, instead of deciding the struggle is too much for them. That's what her grandmother did. She didn't deny the difficulty. She refused to deny the possibility. Now let's fast forward and connect that to today. What her grandmother did in that household, holding high expectations, providing support, insisting on participation, is the same spirit behind what Greg Maloney is doing with Promoting Abilities. The focus on critical thinking, problem solving, time sensitivity and adaptability, the everyday skills that make independence possible. That is exactly what Sinaway's grandmother did in her home. She didn't rush the process. She didn't shame the struggle. She stayed, she expected, she invested. She believed the same thing Greg believes. You are not your diagnosis. You are a person who can learn, who can travel, who can contribute. This is kind curiosity in action. Anne Sullivan knew Helen Keller could excel with language. Coach Ramos found another way for Kyle to excel. Sinaway's grandmother expected the same output from her as from others. Greg gives goals and expects them to be reached. All are acts of audacious kindness. I will not define you by what you can't do. I will stand here and help you discover what you can do. That is the heart of kind curiosity. Kindness in these stories isn't about how someone felt. It's about what they decided to do. Someone stayed, someone adjusted, someone invested. And that's the invitation for all of us. Are we willing to build access? Are we willing to stop treating those who are differently able as having a limit? Will you have the audacity to be kind? I'm Felicia. Thank you for listening. If this episode resonated with you, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Until next time.